Okay, welcome back. Now we're going to do an example of how applying what we know about the unit circle and the definition of the trig functions in here. So each one of these parts, what we're going to do is we're going to write out and evaluate each of the trig functions for each part here. So we'll start with A. Now, this is where memorizing the definitions of each one of those 6 trig functions and memorizing the coordinates that correspond to each angle on the unit circle is really going to make things easier. Okay, so let's start with A. Okay, so I'm going to write out all the trig functions, right? So sine of t we know is equal to y. Cosine t is equal to x. Tangent is equal to y over x, right? And then if we look at secant, t here, that's going to be equal to the reciprocal of sine, so that's going to be 1 over y. And then we got cosecant, or not cosecant, or yeah, cosecant t, and that's going to be 1 over x. And then of course we got cotangent t, which is going to be x over y. Oh, actually, I got this wrong. Keep mixing these up. Secant is 1 over x, and that's 1 over y. Yeah. And so now all I have to do is, well, remember the coordinates for this one, right? So this is pi over 6. So if we start with the first quadrant, right? So this is in the first quadrant. So this is going to correspond to the point square root of 3 over 2, comma 1/2. So that means this is going to be equal to 1/2, right? And then this is going to be equal to square root of 3 over 2. And then this is going to be equal to what? It's going to be equal to 1/2 over the square root of 3 over 2, which is going to reduce to 1 over the square root of 3. But we can't have square roots in the denominator, so we're going to rationalize that. So we're going to multiply the top and the bottom by the square root of 3, so we get the square root of 3 over 3. And that's our final answer. And then 1 over x, what? 1 over x is the reciprocal of this one, so this is going to equal 2 over the square root of 3. But again, we can't leave it in that form, so this is going to turn out to be 2 root 3 over 3. And then 1 over y is equal to 1/2, so the reciprocal of that is just 2. And then cotangent is the reciprocal of tangent, which is going to be just, well, what? Square root of 3, right? So it'll be the reciprocal of this one. So it'll end up being square root of 3. And that's it for that one. Okay, let's do the next one, B. So what I'm going to do is, oops. Now let's do B. B is 5 root 4. So again, this is one of those 45-degree angles, right? But this is in the second quadrant. Okay? So what was if we look at the first quadrant, right? The first quadrant is a reference point. This is square root of 2 over 2, comma, square root of 2 over 2. But when we go to the second quadrant, what happens? The x-axis, the x coordinate changes signs. So it'll go to negative root 2 over 2. Okay? So now here's our point that we're going to be dealing with. So all we have to do is once we get our point, we fill in and simplify. So this is going to be equal to square root of 2 over 2, right? Yeah, square root of 2 over 2. Oh wait a minute, no, we're not in the second quadrant. I'm sorry, not the second quadrant, it's in the third quadrant. Yeah, 1/4, 2/4, yeah, 3/4, I was thinking 3/4, it's 5/4. So both of these are going to be negative. It's in the third quadrant, which means this is going to be negative. Okay, now we got it right. And now x is going to be the same, right? So it's going to be negative square root of 2 over 2. And of course, this is going to be both of these together. So, but it's going to cancel out, and we're going to get what? 1, right? Because they're the same. So we're going to get 1. And then this is going to be 1 over x. So it'll be the reciprocal of this one, right? So it's going to be we're going to flip this one. So it'll be negative 2 over square root of 2. But again, we can't have the root here, so we're going to rationalize that. So we're going to get what? We're going to get 2 root 2 over 2, but the 2's are going to cancel. So we get negative root 2. And of course, since x and y are the same, cosecant of 5 pi over 4 is going to be the same. So we're going to get negative root 2. And of course, again, cotangent of t and tangent of t are going to be the same because, again, even though it's a reciprocal, it's the same number. So this is going to be 1 as well. Okay, now let's do pi. So pi, now this is an easy one because pi corresponds to the point -1, 0, right? So now what we could do is we could fill this in. So x and y. So y is going to be 0, x is going to be -1, y over x is 0 because 0 over -1 is 0. Secant of pi is 1 over x. So it's going to be 1 over -1, which is -1. But here, 1 over y is 0, so this is undefined. because we can't have 0 in the denominator, remember? And then here, x over y. Again, y can't be 0, so this is going to be undefined as well. And that's it, I think, yeah. And, oh, let's do the last one. Okay, so we haven't done negatives, right? But think about it. This is negative pi over 3, which represents a negative 60-degree angle. So this would correspond to what? This would also be equal to what? The 7, or no. That would be 11 pi, right? No, not 11 pi. I'm thinking 30-degree angle. So that would be 5 pi over 3. Because that would correspond to 10 pi over 6. Or, if you think about it this way, negative pi over 3 is, again, 60 degrees negative, right? But remember what is in the first quadrant. What is 60 degrees in the first quadrant? Okay, so here's 30 degrees, right? Isn't 60 degrees or pi over 3 the switch these two, right? So it's 1/2 comma square root of 3 over 2. But then you're flipping down across the x-axis, which means the y variable goes negative. So that means it'd be 1/2 comma negative square root of 3 over 2. Okay? So again, that's the other way of doing it. So here, let me write this down. So this is going to be equal to 1/2 comma negative square root of 3 over 2. So now that we got the point, again, it's just a matter of plugging in the values here and simplifying it. Okay? So y is negative square root of 3 over 2. X is 1/2. And then, of course, tangent is y over x. So it's going to be negative square root of 3 over 2 divided by 1/2, which gives us negative square root of 3. Okay. And then 1 over x is 2. And then 1 over y is 2 over, or negative 2 over the square root of 3. But again, we got to rationalize that. So we're going to get negative 2 root 3 over 3. And so that's going to be our answer for that one. And then cotangent is the reciprocal of tangent, right? So in this case, what are we going to get? We're going to get, well, the reciprocal of that one. So it's going to be negative 1 over the square root of 3. But again, we can't leave it that way. We've got to rationalize it. So our final answer is going to be negative root 3 over 3. And I believe that's it. Let me see, did I just make sure I got this correct? Okay, yep, that's it. All right. Make sure you practice. Have a great night.